Welcome everybody, my name is Esteban Pelayo. I am the director of the European Association of Regional Development Agencies, EURADA. Welcome to the 10th edition of the Responsible Regions Dialogue. This is a monthly meeting point with regional economic practitioners and academics on responsible research and innovation, and mainly how in territories we could institutionalize and to implement better the principles and keys of responsible research and innovation. We are today very pleased of the speakers that we are going to have and panelists. However, my colleagues have said to me that before telling you why is this edition so interesting, I have to tell you the housekeeping rules. So normally you are switched off when you enter. Don't hesitate to write questions in the chat, because we will give you the possibility to, I will read whatever you write, and you will as well have the possibility to ask to the speakers and to make comments. Be aware that this is a meeting that is recorded, and we publish all of them in YouTube. Some of them I have seen several times because are really relevant. For example, we had Dimitri Korpakis as panelist in the third one, so almost 1 year ago, and I remember his comment very, very well, and I have come again and again, or I remember the presentation that our members from Business Upper Austria made of his regional innovation strategy. So things that are relevant and we could consult. However, we will prepare anyway, and we will send to you a short report what is going to be said and the slides as well. So the dialogue is going to be recorded. So be aware of what you say, but normally it's a very open and free dialogue what we have. So if you could pass to the agenda today, we will have a presentation of the Smart Specialization of Emilia Romagna. As the name Smart Specialization and Emilia Romagna is already interesting, but in this case, some people who we know and we have had in presentation in this dialogue have said to us that this is one of the better adapted Smart Specialization for RRI, for Responsible Research and Innovation. And we want to learn how and the details. So we thought that it was good to give them the time. And we will have Angelica Laterza from the region of Emilia Romagna, the entity mainly responsible of the Smart Specialization Strategy, together with Kristian Mancinone from the development agency, ARTER, which is as well an expert on social innovation and namely in the responsible research and innovation. So a very good combination. As you know, because this is the 10th edition and many of you have already taken part, after their presentation, we will have a time for asking their question. And later we will have comments, informed comments from two panelists. Normally we have a regional economic practitioner and then an academic. In this case, we are very happy because we have from one side, Marucha Arana, from Navarra. Navarra is a name in Smart Specialization. I remember when we didn't understand what Smart Specialization strategies are, they asked us to go to see the regional innovation strategy in Navarra with that famous tree, and where we could see the support of the European Parliament, the regional parliament, and how they involve the stakeholders. So we learn, all of us learn with Navarra, and they never kept stop, so they keep it evolving. So that's why it is a privilege to have Marucha Arana with us. And the last one, and we are very pleased, we will have Elisabetta Marinelli. Elisabetta Marinelli has been supporting regions. She's an academic and she's a specialist on these things, and she has been supporting regions from the Joint Research Center. And now she's in a new adventure, very interesting for the region, which is research interface. And we will ask her about as well, what is she doing? We will, after their contribution, because they will make an informed comment to Emilia Romagna, we will open a dialogue. So it's possible to speak about whatever you consider appropriate, connected with the the implementation and the institutionalization of responsible research and innovation in the territories. And as always, I will finish with a last word telling you opportunities for the RRI community in Europe. So this is my introduction. The floor is yours, Angelica, to present the expected smart specialization on Emilia Romagna and the connection with RRI. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much. I would like to share my desktop for the presentation. Just a few seconds. Okay. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, but it will be great if you maximize.
Okay.
Like that. Where
Right.
you are going to click.
Okay.
Perfect. Now, perfect.
Okay. Thank you so much. So first of all, good afternoon to everybody. I'm Angelica Laterza and I work for the regional government of Emilia Romagna in the department dealing with research and innovation. I will be involved in supporting the implementation phase of the new Smart Specialisation Strategy of the Emilia Romagna. And first of all, thanks for this opportunity, for giving us the opportunity to be part of this talk and discussion and to present our strategy. With my presentation, I would like to give you a short and general overview of the new RIS3 strategy. And then I will give the floor to my colleague Kristian Mancinone, working in RTER, for a specific focus on the topic of this talk, and so the social innovation, the social innovation in our strategy. Okay, the new strategy of the Emilia-Romagna region for the 2021 and 2027, of course, has been defined and developed in continuity with the previous one. This means that, of course, we have taken into account, first of all, the results achieved from the previous 7 years, from the previous strategy 2014-2020. But of course, we have also taken into account the changes occurred in these last years. So in terms of evolution of technology, production systems, how our regional research ecosystem has developed. And of course, most important were the introduction of the new global challenges. The new RIS3 strategy focus on the objectives and the challenges included in the new cohesion policy, European cohesion policy, and in all the related documents, meaning the Horizon Europe, the Next Generation EU, the Green Deal, the Agenda 2030, and its sustainable development goals. And at the same time, we have also considered and included the objectives of the new regional policies and programs approved by the 2 bodies of the regional government, the Regional Council and the General Assembly. First of all, the Pact for Labour and Climate, which is a pact signed by different regional actors and which focuses on some specific and important two aspects, like the environmental, the economic and the social sustainability, the quality of jobs, the ecological transition, and so on. And another important regional programs have been the regional strategic documents for the next 7 years, which, as the Pact for Labour and Climate, focuses on some main important topics like the ecological transition, how to reduce the inequalities, the demographic transition, mobility, health, and so on. So starting from these challenges and these objectives, the new S3 strategies have been, the priorities of the new S3 strategies have been developed according to key challenges: sustainability, digitalization, social inclusion, well-being, safety, the transformation of the public administration, through the identification of cross-sectoral priority thematic areas. In continuity with the previous S3 strategy, in the new strategy, we have confirmed the 7 regional specialization production systems, which are the agri-food, building and construction, mechatronics and motor engineering, health and wellness industries, cultural and creative industries, energy and sustainable development, and innovation in services. In these new strategies, we have recognized the tourism industry as an independent sector. In the previous strategy, it was included in the cultural and creative industries, but now we have put this industry as an independent sector, especially after the crisis due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so the necessity to relaunch this sector and to, in order to be more oriented toward innovation and new solutions. We have identified some additional productive areas with high development potential, namely the aerospace economy and the so-called critical infrastructures. That is, those infrastructures linked more to essential public services like health systems, energy systems, transport, those infrastructures for which some specific and complex systems are required. In addition, we have recognized new cross-cutting challenges, the development of big data and the artificial intelligence and the green transformation. And last but not least, we have included a focus on the role of innovator of the public administration. One of the main aspects of the strategy is linked to the terms of participation. The whole framework of the S3 strategy is characterized by a priority setting process, meaning that there was a participatory process for selecting the priorities and the proactive involvement of all the actors of the regional innovation ecosystems. Since the beginning of the definition of the new S3 strategy, regional stakeholders have been involved. Emilia Romagna region and ARTER put the main elements, and then an open consultation was open in which the different actors of the regional innovation ecosystems were involved, and also the actors who have signed the Regional Pact for Labor and Climate gave their contribution in order to identify the priorities to be included in the S3 strategy and the actions for its implementation. Just to give you an idea, sorry if this slide and also the next one is in Italian, but just to give you an idea about our regional research and innovation ecosystem. In Emilia Romagna, we have 7 important universities spread in all the regional territory. There are a lot of national research, national and international research centers, a lot of institutes involved in higher education, great infrastructures, digital innovation hubs. And thanks to the past S3 strategy, this is the pictures of how the regional research and innovation ecosystem has developed. Now this system is composed by a network of clusters, 7 clusters set up just 4 years ago, which are some entities formed by public and private bodies, firms, universities, training institutions, which work together for the competitiveness of the regional system. There are 7 clusters, each for the 7 important regional sectors, so health, mechatronic, agro-food, energy, culture, and creativity, innovation in services. Then the ecosystem is also composed by the network of the so-called technopole, 10 infrastructure spread in 20 different locations in the region. The high technology network, a network composed by more than 19 among laboratories, research laboratories, and research innovation center. A network of incubators, the Maker Network, which is a network for the association, of the digital fabrication, the network of open labs, and also network of the institutes for the higher education. And thanks to a participatory process, and so thanks to the involvement of all the actors of the regional innovation system, 15 cross-sectoral thematic areas have been defined. So the new S3 strategy has been developed by crossing the regional industrial specialization system, so these seven sectors, with the challenges of the new European cohesion policies. So a smarter, a greener, a more connected and more inclusive Europe, and the Europe closer to citizens. So 15 cross-sectoral thematic areas have been identified. And in the S3 strategy, each of these areas have been detailed. There is a specific annex in the S3 strategy with the details of each of these thematic areas and the main aspect that we would like to improve for each of these areas. Concerning implementation and the policy mix, the policy tools for implementing the new strategy will focus on 6 main pillars. First of all, the technopoles, the spaces and research infrastructures. We would like to reinforce the network already set up. The development of new strategic innovation projects, research and innovation projects, new skills, new projects in the field of skill development and higher education, development and consolidation of new innovative startups, the implementation of the Emilia Romagna digital agenda, and also to reinforce the networks, the partnership, and the synergies with the EU programs. In the implementation phase, the Emilia Romagna region will act for develop new actions, new programs, and new investments in each of these 6 main pillars. And of course, when we defined the implementation tools, we have also taken into account some key cross-cutting principles. First of all, open innovation, and in this sense, we would like to valorize a platform already, which is already started work in our region, the so-called RRI platform, which is an open innovation platform, and the platform that was used by our stakeholder for giving their contribution to the RIS3 strategy. Another important cross-cutting principle is the responsible research and innovation. So in order to guarantee a participatory and interactive and transparent processes by involving research organizations, firms, civil society. And as I said before, my colleague Kristian will give you a focus on this specific aspect. He will explain this aspect surely better than me. Then global value chain, meaning to emphasize to the international and intersectoral dimension. And then the creativity and design, so to focus on these two aspects, on these two enabling factors, which are not only linked to the creative sectors, but which are also the enabling factors in the field of manufacturing and services. About the governance, also in this case, the participation is one of the main points, meaning that the governance model will be considered as an inclusive and participatory model. We have defined the governance articulated in 4 levels. The political and strategic level, with the involvement and engagement of the 2 regional bodies, the Regional Council, the executive body of the Emilia Romagna region, and the Legislative Assembly, together with the actors who signed the Pact for Labour and Climate. Then an operational level, so with involvement of the managing authorities of all the European structural funds and the important role of ARTER. I forgot to mention that ARTER has the important role of coordination of our regional and innovation ecosystem. A technical and coordination level, we are now defining, we are in charge of defining a specific S3 committee with the involvement of the main representatives in the region in order to be involved in the implementation of this S3 strategy. And then the participation of the territory. So again, the important role of ARTER with the clusters and with all the other actors and networks of the regional ecosystem. Finally, about the monitoring and the evaluation. Of course, the aim of the monitoring system will be to provide useful data for measuring the implementation of the strategy and the results achieved, also in order to take any corrective actions. And we have considered 2 types of indicators: output indicators and specialization indicators. The output indicators will be used for measuring the level of implementation of the policies and all the related actions put in place. So the output of the regional policies in terms of the actions carried out. And through the specialization indicators, we will measure the changes taking place in the production systems compared to the objectives included in the S3 strategy, in order to identify the thematic focus of the productive and the technological system. That's it from my side. Sorry for this very short and general presentation. But as I said before, I will give the floor to Kristian, because he will explain better the main topic of this talk. And of course, if you have for any kind of questions, I'm available to answer to your questions.
Thank you very much, Angelica. It has been a very interesting and comprehensive introduction. Thank you very much. I think we could go to have the presentation of Kristian, and then we will make questions to all of you.
Okay, thanks.
First of all, thank you for inviting me to talk about this experiment, which we've been carrying out in the framework of the territorial project. the main aim of the experiment is really to try to find a way in which we can approach responsible research and innovation. So yeah, really, it's a pleasure to be here because we have been trying to approach this thing related to responsible research and innovation, and we haven't been able to do that without the territory project. So surely it's been a wonderful travel together with all the partners to go through this concept of responsible research and innovation. So basically, what we're doing in our region, as Angelica told you, the way in which the Smart Specialization Strategy has been designed has been really different from the previous design of the strategy. So we have like enlarged the audience of people participating, having a voice option to define some part of the strategy. And we decided to adopt this approach as a principle, the RRI approach as a principle to design some implementing tools in the future regional programs. So what happens is that, now I have to check if it works, okay. In the regional strategy for 2021, sorry for the Italian, but it was an image and I cannot change it. Basically, there was those 4 axes, which are innovation, the upper part, territory in the lowest part, resources on the right part, and rights on the left part, which were the main axes in which the regional strategy has been designed. Then the four rectangles which are located in this 2-axis diagram are related to competitiveness, human capital, cohesion, and welfare, and green transition. But the most important things in this diagram, I think, is the center, and which is to have a community-driven approach to all the regional strategies. So what has been done in Zero is really to try to design this community-driven approach, even through the design of the strategy through the Emilia Romagna Open Innovation Platform. What happens is basically civil society is the part of the quadruple helix that has been more difficult to connect with the strategy, because it seems like they have no interest, or they are not directly related and linked to what is normally financed by or funded by a regional strategy for competitiveness and innovation. But what we have seen through the territorial project is that adopting this responsible research and innovation process as a part of the regional programming, we could be able to do mainly those 4 things. So to adopt a territorial dimension within the research and innovation framework of the next programming period, and in particular the anticipation dimension of the RRI dimension as a way to design collaborative agendas for the future. So basically to pass from the competitiveness of enterprises to the territorial, to the competitiveness of territories, which is a really interesting shift in terms of designing and programming some policies at territorial level. And we have other different tools, in particular from Axis 5, which will be used in this sense. So for example, the sustainable agendas for cities, or other things that have been discussed at the regional level. Well, another thing that we would like to do is to co-design a specific grant scheme for public engagement in public-private research project. And we would like to issue this kind of specific grant scheme, an experimental grant scheme, together with territories and with partners from territories, but talking even with those civil servants which are normally writing grants. Because what happens is that you find some kind of blocks in writing, in a sense that can be useful for the territory. So you have many rules to follow, and you maybe lack what territories can do following those rules, or can do beside those rules. So there is the need to co-design a grant scheme that it's a kind of experimental grant scheme that can be used in the future programming period. Then what we have learned through this project in terms of RRI is that we need to be more inclusive in terms of governance. As you can see, the governance model of the next Smart Specialization Strategy has been designed in a way to include territories in having a voice option in framing the continuous entrepreneurial discovery process, and to frame even the change of the strategies if necessary. Last but not least, in terms of indicators, we have been dealing with social impact assessment, and this is because both at national and European level, we have been looking at the National Resilience and Recovery Plan, and within that plan, there is a kind of societal readiness level that has been put at the same level of the technology readiness level as a way to assess projects for regional funding. So we are waiting for which should be the approach to design this societal readiness level. So those are basically, in some way, some things related to the future scenario that we see related to the implementation, the real implementation of RRI into the regional smart specialization strategy. We are doing some activities in this sense. So we have done a collaborative paper on challenge-based innovation, in particular challenge-based social innovation policies, in order to approach these specific argument of the strategy, which was not foreseen in the previous strategies, social innovation, in order to design a way in which social innovation can really affect all the other thematic ambits and have a direct impact in involving different kind of organization in design, even in presenting, in submitting projects for regional funding, together with universities, research center, clusters, and other organizations which are well rooted in the innovation ecosystem at regional level. Then we had this open consultation, and Angelica told you about that. And the definition of the RRI as a principle has been seen as in the 50% of the respondents to a survey has been found as a useful principle to design a more sustainable future. We are drafting the last version of guidelines for territorial RRI at local level, which had been discussed through a focus group, through 4 different focus groups with different stakeholders, and will be presented to regional director of economic activities in order to guide the extra implementation of this approach and idea. And we are in progress of co-designing this regional grant scheme. We'll start in the next days. We will even start on a capacity building process for social impact assessment at regional level. So to understand if it's possible and how it's possible to include social impact assessment even in the monitoring and evaluation phase of the regional smart specialization strategy, beside the other aspect that Angelica told you. Those are the main challenges that we are facing. So there is a huge need of capacity building about those topics, particularly for research performing organizations and municipalities. There is a huge need of political commitment, and it can come only from a bottom-up request from municipalities to include this kind of approach of territorial competitiveness or social innovation in the strategy that will be used to invest in the territories. There is the need to commit on the design of the regional operating programs, and this is ongoing. And the inclusive governance framework has to be designed looking at other kind of tools that can be used, like the community local led development or the local action group approaches. So those can be some examples, but not the only one. We have some drivers for change in the future. So we would like to from the regional government to accept experimentation and failures as a possible framework for territorial-led R&I projects. There is the need to establish a transformative innovation hub at regional level, which has some kind of a proximity agent on territories that can help municipalities and researchers to work together on territorial challenges. There is surely a need of capacity building for innovation ecosystem actors and researchers, and there is a need of an internal organizational change in RTL itself, and we have learned this through the project in order to even to establish our competencies and skills on these topics. We have reached so far a clear understanding that if we want to do through this kind of approach, we have to deal with this kind of frameworks like anticipatory governance, anticipatory innovation, adaptive innovation, and mission-oriented innovation, which are something new in relation to what was enhancement-oriented innovation. That is what our smart specialization strategy has been designed so far. This is a scheme, is the four phases public policy innovation elaborated by the OECD, sorry. And we have to deal really with different and transformative or disruptive change approaches. We have to deal with transformative social innovation if we want to make a kind of hybridization between different ecosystems working through social and environmental changes which are really affecting people. We have to deal with social innovation not only as a policy that can be used for developing social innovation, but policy have to be themselves socially innovative in how they are built at the very beginning. So it's not more about sustaining social innovation, but it's about defining challenge together with territories, using co-design, co-creation, human-centered design, even to design the grand scheme. It's about experimentation and evidence and iteration, and then it's about connecting and scaling the project that can be more effective in facing some social challenges and environmental challenges. And last, one thing that is interesting is that the proximity and social economy in which there are the civil society sector has been recognized by the European Commission as one of the 14 industrial ecosystems in Europe that can help this change, this shift to a more sustainable future and socially acceptable future. So in this sense, even the ERDF can be used in order to change things in terms of social and environmental impact, not only from the technological point of view, but even from the human point of view. And last thing is that social innovation will be strongly supported even in the European Social Fund Plus through social experimentation. So we think that merging together all these different sources of fundings, maybe making kind of integration of funds in order to support social innovation and transformative social innovation at territorial level can be a way to enhance territories to work towards solving societal and environmental challenges in a more effective way, working together with citizens. So I finished my presentation. Hope to have been clear. I know that I put together many different concepts, but if you have questions, we can talk about it later.
Thank you, Kristian. I think we have a lot of questions. We are going to have a lot of questions and a lot of comments. So we have one from Jean-Jacques Bernardini. I don't know if you want to say that directly, Jean-Jacques, or I read that.
You can read.
Okay. He says, do you integrate responsible research and innovation criteria, for example, in ethics inclusion, to select the projects that will be funded by the European Regional Development Fund? This is one of the questions. Probably I think for Angelica, I don't know. Do you integrate the KPIs of RRI in the evaluation of the performance of the funded project? Very difficult question, Jean-Jacques, by the way.
Well, if I may just one
okay.
an answer is that I've been looking for this in the other responsible regions workshop, and still I found no answer. We are trying to start a process to understand how it can be feasible together with territorial actors, because it's not that easy. Yeah, I know that in digital you are facing this question too. We have definitely to talk about this with beneficiaries and people which will be affected by those criteria, because you cannot put too much high criteria in terms of evaluating things that they cannot be able to explain. And so I think we have to co-design even evaluation criteria in this sense. Still, we don't know if those criteria will be used in the next programming period, because something which we are starting to work now. But I think I've seen something from Tampere regions. They have been starting using these criteria in the past programming period, and so it's feasible, but it's not so easy to do. So we have really to find a way together with beneficiaries and people which normally submit projects. Even because, for example, research centers are not normally able to use this kind of criteria. So they normally do not do public engagement. So how can you measure public engagement KPIs in a regional funded project in which public engagement is used only in terms of communication? So it's a tricky question, Jean-Jacques, and surely we can even do a kind of community of practice on that, because there is the need to establish kind of different approaches and to see what can work and what not. For this, I was talking about an experimental grant scheme.
I would like, I very welcome your offer of the community of practice, because Jean-Jacques is as well involved in RRI and he's an specialist on ICT. So he said that he's facing the same challenge in Digiterri. I don't know, Jean-Jacques, if you want to say something, because I see, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Esteban. Yes, in fact, in the project, we're working with the regional governments. Okay, is member of the advisory board, and one of the actions is how to integrate RRI criteria in the RIS3. Okay, so it's quite the same approach than what you described in Emilia Romagna. And at the moment that we are discussing about how RRI could be used in the evaluations of the funded project and also during the selections. Just to give you an example, for example, a part of the S3 will be focused on artificial intelligence. Okay, like in your S3. In the process of selection of the projects, we would like to integrate, for example, a questionnaire on ethics in order to check that the funded project would respect some ethical criteria. So it's a link with one aspect of the RRI. So it's what we have in mind in order to make the link between RRI and the RIS3. So just to give you an example. And I'm really open to discussions with those regions that are facing the same questions in order to identify some good practices for us. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the challenge of translating RRI into operational programs, not only to the strategies, is something that is always, we have discussed a lot. And Kristian Mancinone in particular is one of the experts that always says in the meetings how to translate operatively this type of indication. I don't know, you want to say something more, Kristian?
Yeah, just that it's very interesting what we're doing. I think we have to deal with the two different parts of the RRI. So at the moment, we're more involved in studying the part of the dimensions. So how can include anticipation, inclusion, the other dimension within the process of designing the regional program and using some tools that can be helpful for submitting projects. For example, the theory of change or future scenario analysis that can help to submit some projects looking at what can be anticipated, or working on two-level grants, two-step grants, in which in the first step you can make a future scenario analysis and then understand which can be people willing to solve this kind of challenges that have been raised by this analysis. And the other thing is surely to adopt and adapt the RRI principles this way in terms of ethics, inclusion, gender equality, public engagement, science education. So we have been dealing more with public engagement and science education, and I think that they are easier to work on because you can have some proxies of public engagement or science education in the project that are submitted to a regional grant, but still it's not easy to understand how to evaluate and monitor then those kind of criteria. Socially, it's really interesting what you do with ethics on artificial intelligence.
If I may, I'm going to make a question which is not directly related with the RRI, but is as well about the implementation in Emilia Romagna. I was impressed about the map that Angelica saw with all the province and the infrastructure, the very well classified, the technopoles, the cluster, the applied research, and so on. My question is, where are you now? So you already have approved the Smart Specialization. I suppose that you have already a draft of the ERDF operational programs. So is that question very operative? Are you going quickly to start implementing that? Is approved, has to be approved by the Italian government and then the European Commission. So is to understand where are you?
Yes, no, the Smart Specialization Strategy has already been approved by the regional government, by both the bodies. The regional government is composed by the regional council, the executive body, and the legislative body, the legislative assembly. And the strategy has been approved by both the bodies. So they have approved the contents, of course, of the strategy. And as I said before, we have put the RRI as a cross-cutting principle, meaning that the region commit itself in taking into consideration this principle as one of the core principles in implementation phase of the strategy. Maybe you have, okay.
The operational program is still a draft, has not been approved yet.
No, not yet. We are defining, just in these days, we are defining the final draft, but they have to be sent to the European Commission for the approval. So we are just defining the last details of the programs, the new programs.
In any case, congratulations for including RRI as an horizontal principle. I don't know any other, probably they are, but I don't know other strategies that have that. Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
Okay, let's go to now. As after the presentation, we have two informed panelists that will give their vision and their opinion. So we will have one panelist, which are regional practitioner, and then the people from Emilia Romagna will make a comment if they wish, and we could as well all comment, and then we will have finally the academic. So the regional practitioner is Marusa Arana from Aditec in Navarra. Is the network of applied technology centers, something very useful and very interesting for the companies in Navarra, and I know that they use a lot. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you all for having us, having Aditec, contributing to these webinars. So what I'm going to do today is just in these 5 minutes gives you a tangible example of our responsible research and innovation. So I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me. Do you see it properly?
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. So let me just minimize this. Yes. what it is at ETEC, as you mentioned, thank you. And this is written on the Regional Technology Science and Technology Act. We are the coordinator entity of the innovation system of Navarre. So our objectives and activities are always focused on coordinating this system or ecosystem, we may call it. Basically, in a screenshot, you would see different types of entities that belong to this Sinai. It's also known as Sinai, like the Mount Sinai. And basically, we have research centers, 2 universities, research and development units within companies, health research institute, and several technology centers, along with singular entities. But our main focus is going to be on the top ones, first and second line, as the singular entities are not developing research and development content. And another overview, very quick, of our current specialization strategy in Navarra, and what do they do, these technology centers and research institutes and the universities, in what area of the specialization they work. But now I'm going to focus on our ETEC's objectives and initiatives. And as I mentioned, because we are the coordinators of this ecosystem, our main focus is to encourage collaboration among these entities, all of them that I just mentioned. As well, we want to foster the excellency of the system, performing excellent science and excellent research. But as well, we promote public engagement, because there is a gap between these knowledge centers or entities that develop research and development and what the public knows, what the regional, Navarra's public knows about them, or even science in general. So our third goal would be that. And all of those objectives are materialized in several initiatives that you have on the right-hand side of the screen. All of them are aligned with, as well, with this Science and Technology Act that I mentioned earlier. And among these 6 initiatives that we are currently, well, for several years working on, I'm going to focus straight on this one, which is gender dimension in the research content. So what is it? And this is the focus of this of my 5 minutes. It is how can we contribute to this to a more responsible research and innovation for ourselves? It is the focus of our project is first of all, to ask ourselves and ask the researchers to consider if it is possible to talk about scientific excellency without taking into account the sex and / gender variable. So we've been approaching this project since 2019. Along, of course, with the government of Navarre, even though we are a private foundation at ETEC, all the activities and all our objectives are in line with the government of Navarre. So this was our main questions, and our goals are not only to create awareness among these Sinai entities, but as well provide them with specific knowledge, with training sessions and as well conferences or material, documentation, reports. We want to foster debate as well, because this is a topic that is usually mixed up with the gender equality plans, which those apply more to the characteristics of each entity itself, and it relates more to HR projects and objectives. But this one that we talk about is how to consider that science is well done, for example, when there is health research going on, that we take into account the specific through the process, if we take into consideration if we have used female or male mice into animal testing, as well if we are using humans to disclose if how many women are men, of course, and if there are any conclusions that we can gather that are different for each of the different physiques. That would be the sex implementation. And gender would be as well similar, but all related to cultural stereotypes and cultural expectations that we all have just because I am a woman or because you are a man. So all of these, we try to help the SINAI agents to increase this excellency by including this into their content. And as well, we try to promote the engagement within the community with meetings, of course, and this debate that I said, and not only the researchers' awareness, but the public awareness as well. Explaining that this is doing good science, basically. And let me tell you as well that not only in the regional research and development system with the last regional call, in which researchers had to explain how are they incorporating this dimension. And now within the new Horizon Europe, it is a new requirement that they have to justify if they are not implementing or incorporating this dimension. They have to justify and give full details on why they are not doing this. So this is for ourselves in Navarra, it's been since 2020 a regional requirement, but as well within the Horizon Europe program, you are going to be asked to explain and incorporate this criteria. And well, we have some, as I said, we coordinate 14 collaborative projects in Navarra plus 5 strategic projects, and we reach over 200 researchers with this community of activities and almost 1,000 public, general public people. And just a couple of slides of milestones before I finish. We did the kickoff of this project, started at the end of 2019 with a public conference and a gathering of the community. That's on the first top left corner is the first picture of the community. And in this community, one person of each of those centers comes to these meetings with us, and we all together, we talk about this topic. As well, let me highlight that we have developed early 2020 this help guide, sorry, which is based on the Sacher guidelines. Sacher guidelines are guidelines for scientific papers and articles. So we customize, let's say, to our regional needs, a very simple guide to help the researchers to go through the process from the setup of the hypothesis of the research to all the methodology of the project itself, how to implement this dimension. And you have it available in our website as well. It's public accessible, sorry. We had important references in this field like Gina Rippon, neuroscientist, with a conference. And as well, we had Londa Scheibinger. I'm sure her name is familiar because she is the head of the European Commission's project Gendered Innovation, which just recently they published the second main report with several examples in all different fields of this gender dimension in research. And as well, we've been this year as well working with general media, radio, TV, and newspapers social media, announcing this just very recently at the beginning of October, sorry, that we had over 14 speakers on an international conferences in which example by example we were telling researchers how to do this responsible research incorporating the gender dimension. And as well, we have it all publicly available on our website. So basically it is responsible research in one particular topic, which is gender dimension. But if you start going deeply into this topic, you can see it's basically very, very, how do you say, that applies to so many other fields. And it is a European requirement, it is a regional requirement, and it is all working towards the main goal of excellency. So this is basically, I think I'm being quite fast, but I didn't want to overwhelm you all with too many slides on the first day, because probably I know, for example, working with the regional research with the Sinai entities, that for them this is an extremely new topic, and they are not very, they don't have very clear idea on how to start doing it on their daily jobs. So there's a lot to do, and this is a cultural change as well. So our project is taking years to take a speed, as we say, but hopefully with all together we can get farther, not faster, but farther into our goals. So thank you very much.
Thank you to you, Marusha, because you bring us the gender dimension that we are not still mentioned, but as well is very present. For example, in the Territoria project, one of our partners is implementing gender equality plans in region Central Macedonia. So it's something that we consider that. So thank you very much. So if you don't have, I see one comment, but no, it was a former one from Jean-Jacques Bernardini. Thank you very much, Jean-Jacques. If we don't have any more comments, I would like to pass the word to Elisabetta Martinelli, which is an old friend of all of us, about Eurada, but we feel privileged, but she's friend of everybody. As you know, she has been a specialist on the implementation of the Smart Specialization Strategy. She was really in the good place, in the good moment, and she profited that and helped all of us. Is a good specialist on entrepreneurial discovery process and many other activities connected with the regional innovation strategies and smart specialization. Now she has left the Joint Research Center and is supporting other regions in a different way. And I hope she will tell us as well, not only what she thinks about the Emilia Romagna Smart Specialization Strategy, but as well about herself and the policy research interface. So Elisabetta, the word is yours.
Thank you very much, Esteban. I definitely feel among friends, and I'm flattered by your words. So thank you very much. As you asked, then I'll start with a brief introduction about what happened to me when I left the JRC. I think what happened to me is what happened to everyone. I was in lockdown, so very soon after. So I always had in mind that I wanted to try and work by myself, and actually being in lockdown made it an obvious choice, considering that it wasn't really a viable idea to move to any other place. And so, as you said, I had friends, I built on my networks, and so I've been working in a few Interreg projects with, for instance, Apulia region. I worked with the OECD on the smart specialization of Friuli Venezia Giulia, as we're talking about an Italian regions. I'm working very closely with Catalonia on responsible research and innovation. So my comments today will come a lot from my experience with them. And more recently, I've had Latin American call. So the JRC and the UN have both invited me to collaborate with them in various Latin American countries. And also, I also am working with other parts of the European Commission, like the DG Regio. So I'm always doing the same thing. I really like talking to the public administration that is actually working hands-on with the territory. I like talking with stakeholders, and I am doing stuff that would fit easily into what I was doing previously in the JRC. And it's been a really nice year and a half, challenging at the beginning, but now things are flowing, and I must say I'm enjoying it very much. So I won't bore you much more. Well, I want to say one thing. One of the reasons why my company, my trade name is Policy Research Interface, is because I think that there's a gap between the two. So I'm trained as a PhD economist, and I realized when I came to the JRC that actually the distance was enormous, and it's really necessary to fill that gap, because the benefits that universities can do to the policy process is really not automatic. So one of the projects I'm happy to be involved in, it's an international training network, and I'm in charge of providing hands-on training to PhD students. So I provide them the policy view and so on. So just to update you on my life, I hope I haven't bored you too much. I'll move on to my comments to the presentation. I enjoyed the three of them. I really like also the focus on gender dimension, because it's something I probably wouldn't have commented on, but now I will, thanks to Marucha's reflections. So I am always, Emilia Romagna is always considered a top example. I know probably people from Emilia Romagna tend to be, as everyone, less aware of how praised they are around the world, but everywhere in Italy, Emilia Romagna is considered a very, very good example. And one of the things that struck me actually in the presentation by Angelica is the fact that in the governance system, you actually are managing to have the different managing authority talking to each other. So you have the ERDF, ESF, and this is beyond responsible research and innovation. This is this is incredible research and innovation. So congratulations on that. Now, moving forward to responsible research and innovation, I have some issues. I might be wrong, but I feel that the concept may be equated a lot with citizen science and with social innovation. But I think it goes beyond that. It goes, it can very well be ingrained in technological research and innovation. So, for instance, yesterday, no, 2 days ago, I was in a small city in Catalonia that's called Manresa, and they are developing what is called in the Catalan system a shared agenda on health and health services to the dependency for chronic patients and so on. And one of the things that came out in the conversation is how not present the gender dimension was at first. So this is a very technical context, okay? They are developing technologies and services, but the carers are mainly female. And actually ignoring that element detracts to the value of, may detract to the value of the process. I mean, it's important to include them. I mean, it's an incredible experiment what's going on in Manresa. So that's for the gender element. Again, the technological element. There are a lot of social changes happening then. So that interaction, I'm using this example of Manresa, between hospitals, universities, patients associations, carers associations, is producing a lot of social change. So it would fall also under the term of social innovation, but there is a lot of technology involved. The issue of anticipation is particularly important because I don't think for someone who develops technology, it's very easy to anticipate the consequences of the latter on its users, unless there's a broad interaction with them, unless this principle of responsible research and innovation is taken into account. As for the other dimensions, I think we have the issue of reflexivity, and responsiveness, that is fairly easy to, it's easier, it's more, if you want, is more traditional. No, it comes with being good at monitoring, with being good at evaluation. That's the reflexive part. The responsiveness, I don't know, and I would like to ask you whether in your governance system you are able to respond as easily as you would like to unexpected results of research and innovation. And then in inclusions, inclusion, that's what you focus most, and it was a lot intended as training, informing, engaging, less so, and that was my perception, and if it's wrong, and I might be wrong, so less so as co-creation. And I think that's part of the responsible research and innovation that I'm seeing. As I said, I'm very grounded in what's happening in Catalonia. That I'm seeing in Catalonia. What is being done is really developing a lot of spaces in which users and producers blend, the so-called prosumers, the consumers and users, but because they create the response to the societal challenge together, and this generates social innovation, but this also generates technological solutions that respond to local challenges, which are aligned to global challenges, and this in turn opens the opportunity for new international business models. Okay, this is very speculative, but the idea is you are working with your territory, you engage them, you involve them, not just because you ask their opinion, but because you co-create solutions to the challenges that you define with them. And these challenges most likely will fall under categories that the categories of challenge that the whole world is facing: sustainability, aging, inequality. So if you are, if you're wise, there is an opportunity to, in due time, develop products, develop processes, develop value chains that actually not only responds to the needs of your regions, but respond also to the needs of other regions. I'm talking very much. I think I told Giacomo that I could easily talk for hours, so maybe I've exceeded my time. But okay, these are my main comments. I fear there's too much equation between responsible research and innovation, citizen science, and social innovation. The three are linked. The three are fundamentally linked. But maybe I would stretch the concept a bit more.
I expect an answer from Angelica or Kristian about that, about what Elisabetta has said.
So Angelica, let me start with some consideration. You're totally right. There was nothing wrong in what you said, and we are fully aware of many things that you said. We are in a process of trying to change some of the things. I'm really aware about the Catalonia experiment because we have been talking with Tatiana since 3 years ago. So she came here to try to talk with our responsible for research and innovation programs, which now has changed, but because we were really interested in kind of, and we even wrote an Horizon 2020 on this, which had not passed, on defining even how shared agendas, for example, can be used in our regional ecosystem, which is slightly different from what there is in Catalonia. So adapting and integrating some kind of different approaches. At this moment, what we're seeing is that civil society is the actor that is not affected by all those changes. So they produce societal challenges. They are owner of societal challenges, but they're really low involved in this kind of approaches to research and innovation. Both research centers and universities are not used to involve them in technology development. I can mention just 2 projects out of more than 300 funded by regional funds, which adopted this kind of public engagement, let's call it in this way, but I call it co-creation approach to research and innovation. What we would like to do, and we're even working with Professor Margherita Russo from University of Modena in Reggio Emilia, which was involved in a co-creation group in the OECD. We're trying to understand and to define which could be a co-creation model or co-creation approach to not only to policy design, but to project design, to project implementation at regional level. It's not that easy because you have to reframe the way in which you write the grant scheme. So rules have to be different if you want to do this kind of things. So basically, there is the need to advance the idea of funding different research and innovation projects instead of only technological one. And I think that the idea of using 15 different strategic topics, if I need to work on, has been developed in this way. So not only having the sectors, but in each sector you can cross with different thematic topics, and you have to involve users and citizens in defining the project. In this sense, what is seen in other regions is that normally they use 2-step grant schemes that can ease the first part to define challenges together with users and citizens, and then you can go asking to technological and to providers, to solution providers, to provide solution on projects on that challenges that can have been decided together in the territory. So this can be an approach not that easy to implement using the rules of the ERDF and the ESF and integrating the ERDF and the ESF. In the previous strategy, we had a multi-fund. So there was a multi-fund approach, and it was not really an integrated fund approach, but ESF, ERDF, and the EARDF were used together in terms of using different sources of fund for funding projects, but you have to define a really different monitoring and evaluation system if you want to go in that direction. So this is the first obstacles in terms of technical terms. Second thing, yes, now we are doing information and communication, but we have to deal with public engagement, definitely. If you want to address and solve those societal challenges, you have to do with public engagement. And anticipation, responsiveness, inclusion are the key to work in advance on those kind of topics. How to do it? If you have the key or if you have the answer, I'm here, I'm listening, because we are really experimenting.
I have one answer. I think it depends a lot on individualities. Okay, so my experience, I repeat, it's very, very strongly rooted in what I've seen in Catalonia, in particular in 2 places that are, that you probably have heard of, or you will, because they're being picked up as good practices here and there. And in both cases, the dynamics are incredible. One is related to agriculture and bioeconomy. The other is about health. Okay, in both cases, you can tell that there is a small number, that at the beginning of everything, there's a small number of very smart, committed, eager people to do something. And then obviously the stars have to align, okay? So the right instruments have to be in place, the right administrator has to be in place so that it picks up on this dynamic. But I think what I would say to a public administrator if you see someone that is promising, don't let them go alone, because you know, like the same instrument without the right people, okay, it produces stuff, it produces good stuff, it doesn't have to be bad, but it doesn't produce excellence naturally. Okay, so value the human capital, like in everywhere, and in all territories there are people who are extremely committed. And those who work with them, they should in general, they know who they are. And obviously, you know, there are the rules of the game that needs to be respected, but there are many ways to show support. Okay, it doesn't have to be, you know, it's just even showing trust, letting them know that you are there, that you're aware that they're doing a good job, and then when the right instruments come, you know, stuff can happen. But value the exceptional individuals.
Any more comments? Open. Now it's open to everybody. You could speak about Emilia Romagna or whatever you want. I like very much the last intervention of Elisabetta about people, and I think empower people is one of the things that we have to do with these open strategies. And at the end, it's not only let them to decide, but mainly is to involve them and to engage them in the mainstream of the strategy. So this is, and people is quite relevant in that thing. No more comments?
Well, I would also agree with the last. Do you hear me? Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, I would also agree with the last comment that people matters. Hi, and very, very important, but you do need an organization support, as Elisabeth was saying, and you could also, I mean, look on the different processes, how they run, and how they can either affect the legitimacy of the regional actors or take it away. And of course, if you have an urgency for something and you are getting a legitimacy to that as well, it creeps on strengthening, but it can be taken away as well. And then you could analyze the policy measures against this goal. So I think it's very important to have first a mindset and ownership, how you create that ownership, and then to have the organizational support to maintain that ownership, and through that you get good policy interventions and also an interest to develop the structures. So it's like very correctly that Elisabeth is saying that it all comes from individuals, but you need organizational support, you need the legitimacy, you need the backup, because it's not something that you have to keep on going for quite some time, and that is a very important point, I think. So thank you very much for that.
Gerker Johnson from the Regional Council of Strobodnia, by the way, is to tell you who is the community. So I think, like always, the things become very interesting when we have to finish. And I'm going to give you just three news about the RRI community. The first one is, if I were you working in a region, I will apply for the call of cherries. It's an RRI project working in co-creation mainly by public organization. And I'm going to put you an example, a real example. Orebro region, one of the partners of cherries, has launched an open call to help the people that they have in their Swedish region that are alone and are elderly. This is done in an open way. So there is a need established by a public organization, and they have an open call, and then comes people who provide solutions. This is done in a framework of an Horizon 2020 project involving RRI with a wide participatory process. So, and they are now selecting 3 mirror regions or the 3 territories that they have is Cyprus, The other one is Murcia, and the third one is Orebro. So I will, if I were you, I will apply, because you will learn a lot about co-creation, about RRI. You don't need to be very aware of those things, but just to be willing to follow that. The second news that I'm going to say is that the GRACE project is finalizing, and they are going to organize a set of conferences, a small conference about the different topics. The first one is on the 26th, next week. Every Tuesday they have a conference quite relevant. The next one is about how to start with RRI in a territory, very practical. The next one is about public engagement. The third week will be about the gender equality plans, bottom-up approach, ethics. So it will be like a training about RRI that I recommend. And the third news that I would like to say is our own news. We are going to continue with this Responsible Regions dialogue. The next one is going to be in the 18th of November, so the third Thursday of the month, like always. And we have been lucky because the third Thursday on December as well is not very close to Christmas, so it will be on the 16th of December, so we will have that. Then we will have the final conference, save the date, of this territorial project on the 25th and 26th of January here in Brussels, and as well online. You are more than welcome. Eurada will organize together with all the partners of the territorial project the final conference. And we like a lot to meet all of you every month. And I have started to discuss with my colleague Giacomo and other colleagues to continue these dialogues every Thursday of the third Thursday of the month in another way. So we will continue. So if you have something to say to the community of RRI people and you want to be either a speaker, keynote speaker as Emilia Romagna today, or a panelist, a wonderful panelist like Marusha and Elisabetta, don't hesitate to contact us, because if we cannot feed you in these 2 months, we will feed you if Giacomo allows us and continue with these things on the next year. Thank you very much, and see you on the 18th of November. And thank you to all the panelists and the speakers. Wonderful. So good to see all friends as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.